here with Chester Peterson, and this is his. Tell me what it is.
It's a 1951 Bell 47 MASH helicopter.
1951, and you said you just restored this.
Yes, ground up restoration.
Wow, come tell me about the motor now. You were just telling me about that.
Okay, so it's a Franklin engine, 210 horsepower engine. Same thing they put in the Tucker.
Okay.
The Tucker car. And it's sideways mounted, so the end of the crankshaft goes into this transmission, and what the transmission does is it's really a gear reduction system. We've got, the engine runs at 3,100 RPMs, and it reduces it down to 1,700 RPMs for the tail rotor.
Okay.
And then it reduces it down again to 360 RPMs for the main rotor.
Okay.
And then it also runs this fan in the front, this cooling fan off of this fan drive like this.
So when you're flying, it's always the same speed all the time?
Depends on the RPM. So you want to, the RPM varies between, you try to keep it at the same speed. You try to have 3,100 RPM all the time.
Uh-huh.
But it'll vary, it'll go down to 29 and 30.
Yeah, but you're not using it like a throttle to speed up or go forward. All you do is change the pitch of the helicopter in order to go faster or slower.
And then, so what happens with that is the more pitch you pull, the more throttle you need, because you've got more pitch on the blade, more drag on the blade, so the more throttle you need to keep it at 31.
Oh, okay. So you're throttling it, trying to keep it at 31.
Yes.
And that's all manual. It doesn't have a...
There's a correlator box on it that helps you, but it doesn't have a governor on it. There's nothing that sets it at 3,100.
Oh, okay.
Like
okay.
Some helicopters.
Yeah. So that's a set in there sideways. So that motor's running sideways as we would normally see it. And the oil tank is down here at the bottom, and the oil pump is all down there at the bottom.
Yes, sir.
That is just, and you said you had like 4 or 5 hours so far on this thing?
Yes.
Wow. Well, tell me about the interior. Is it still like?
Yeah, same thing. So
I got
what we've got here, so the controls on this thing, this is called the collective, and it goes up and down. It makes you go up and down.
Okay.
So it changes the pitch of the blades collectively. That's why it's called the collective. This is the cyclic, forward, back, left, and right. It changes the pitch of the blades
sideways.
Per cycle.
Oh, okay.
So what it'll do is, to make this helicopter move, as you move the cyclic forward, what'll happen is the blade that's moving forward will take less pitch. The blade that's moving back will give more pitch, and it tilts the helicopter. So it changes the blades once per cycle. And if you look at the swash plate up here, this is the swash plate. This is what actually changes the blades here.
Ah, that's cool.
So that changes the pitch of the blades up on the top. Now the collective does it collectively. You see, it pulls up that collective sleeve and it pushes.
That gives you more or less lift.
Yes.
And the what'd you call the other one?
Cyclic.
The cyclic.
Yes.
The cyclic does them directionally.
So this is
odd.
up and down, and this is direction.
Okay.
And what the tail does is the more collective you pull, the more pitch you pull on it, the more torque it creates. So that's an anti-torque system. So the more torque you pull on it, the more pedal you have to put in to keep it from spinning.
So you have 2 pedals.
2 pedals, yes sir. Right and a left.
And do they work together or separate?
Together. One goes up, one goes down.
Oh, okay.
So if you look at the tail rotor back there, that's what it's doing. It's changing the pitch of the tail rotor.
And they're set together. You're not going to push them both down.
Mm-hmm.
They're the opposite. Okay.
So the more pitch you pull, the more left pedal you put in. The less pitch you pull, the more right pedal.
How intuitive is all this?
Very.
Really?
Very. Yeah, and so before I ever got in a helicopter, I ran heavy equipment and bobcats and that kind of stuff. So when I got in a helicopter, it was actually pretty intuitive. You feel this thing. Once you feel it, then you got it.
Well, I know with heavy equipment, because I've done some of that stuff, you feel it in your ass before you see it.
And that's the same with this.
Really?
You feel it, and what happens with it is, so the hardest thing in these things really is hovering. To keep them still when it's in a hover. And what happens at first is you see it, your brain tells your body what to do, and you try to fix it, so you're behind it a little bit.
Yeah.
And what'll happen is there's a point in time where that kind of turns upside down, and you feel it and you fix it. You feel it, you fix it.
Ah, okay. Yeah. You start feeling it more than you do. And the controls inside, this is all the original controls?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Anything, what did you add to it? Looks like the store...
I added this mount for an iPad.
Uh-huh.
And then it's got new radios and everything, but all of this stuff is original. All of the gauges and everything are original.
Are all original. It's just got the radios up there for communication radios. Those are new. What would you flip that little... Why has that got a guard over it? Oh, that's a switch to keep you from touching it?
Yeah, it's to keep you from touching it. So that's your mag switch. So this has magnetos.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't have...
doesn't have like a coil and distributor. It's got all magnetos.
So these are the magnetos here. They produce their own power.
Yeah.
So you could lose your whole electrical
system and still fly.
And it'll still
fly.
Yes.
And all the controls are mechanical, so it'll still fly.
Are mechanical.
So you could just disconnect the battery and still at least be able to set it down.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. So it's got hydraulic assist. So it's got a hydraulic assist for the cyclic. But you can lose that and bypass it and still fly.
And still do it.
Now this originally didn't have that. What it had was friction plates. And if you look at any of this is a Korean War.
Korean, okay.
So if you see any old Korean videos and you watch the helicopter pilot and their hand is doing this on that cyclic, it's because it doesn't have hydraulics.
Oh.
The hydraulics balance it out and make it simple to fly, but you had to fight with this helicopter.
Wow. So that the hydraulic piece, that's a newer edition? More modern?
It came out just after the D1. This is the D1, and it came out after this aircraft.
And you said this was like just what they use like in MASH, so they would have like beds and stuff set on
litters on the side.
Litters on each side?
Yeah.
Wow.
They have little plastic guards that go over their head, come off and go back on.
Wow. So basically when they would do this, and we see it in MASH, the pilot would already be inside. And then all they'd do is come up, set them down, lock them down, and he'd take off and come back. Because he didn't want to sit around long.
No.
No, he just wanted to get in and get gone.
Well, but that's it. Yeah, they were flying into
whatever.
Yeah. A dangerous situation.
Yeah. So what's the box? This toolbox?
Just a cargo box, yeah.
Just a cargo box type thing?
And this is where the battery mounted. Originally, it mounted back here.
Yeah, and I see you got it up front. Was that for balancing or balancing? But with the cargo box, you felt it was balance it better. Now, do you find that you have to put weights or things to balance it, or is it pretty well balanced as it is?
Sometimes you do, yeah, depending on because it's a 3-seater helicopter.
Oh, really?
If you have 3 people in there, it wants to make this nose heavy. You need to put
something back there
to balance it out.
Wow. And I would imagine the same way with the litter. So those guys that flew, thinking about that, of course the litters are more almost centered to the post. So, but I could see that would still be a little bit more on that.
What they would do is if there was only one person, the pilot sits on this side, they would put the other person on the litter
on the other side.
Yeah.
And balance it left to right. And then if there's 2, that's pretty neat.
It balances itself out and helps it.
Well, that's pretty cool. Well, Chester, thank you. I'm going to